Good evening, everyone, and blessed be. This is your host, Aries Starwind, and welcome back to another episode of Readings at the Witching Hour. We are going to continue our reading of a fantastic book, The Outer Temple of Witchcraft, Circles, Spells, and Rituals by author Christopher Penczak. Our next section is Why Do We Do Magic? Recently, a student asked me a question I was hard-pressed to answer. She asked, why do we do magic? There are other spiritual traditions that don't really do magic, and they are still mystical and personal. So why do witches? I was stumped. My immediate reaction was, we just do. That's what witches do. That's what I was taught, and that is what I am teaching. But that is not the answer. I think all witches know it intuitively, but it was the first time I was forced to put it into words. We do magic to truly know beyond a shadow of a doubt that all things are connected, that all things are one. We have the Hermetic principle. We are all thoughts in the divine mind. But that is only a principle. That's a nice idea, but until we experience it, it doesn't seem real. At least it didn't to me. Witchcraft is a religion of experience. We don't take anything on faith. We don't need faith, really, because we have a personal experience and relationship with the divine. We experience what we learn directly and require no prophet or ultimate intermediary. We learn to connect in our own way. As we start in the craft, we do spells for a sense of personal empowerment. We want to express this connection to feel empowered, and, honestly, to see if it really works. We do it to make our life easier and to help those around us. Some focus strictly on the stage, either becoming afraid of the power and not practicing, or obsessing over the power and forgetting the spiritual path. But you can't continue to do magic, healing, and meditation without reflecting on how and why it works. Doing magic consistently and reliably first shows us how powerful our thoughts, words, and actions are, and how they can become our helpers or our own personal traps. We observe the differences between those who live in conscious life and unconscious life. The web of life becomes ever apparent to us as we notice how the smallest actions can affect those very far from us. In science, they have coined the term butterfly effect, speculating if the air generated by a butterfly on one side of the world can contribute to the hurricane developing much later on the other side. All things are connected, and through magic, though our failures as well as our successes, we learn that truth. We learn the power all humans carry in the world, and hopefully develop a great respect for this powerful connection and for ourselves. Through magic, unlike other forms of manifestation and prayer, we partner with the divine in nature through the elements, animal spirits, herbs, stones, colors, sun, moon, planets, and stars. We learn everything is alive. Everything has a consciousness. They might be different from us, but everything contains a spirit, and it is a part of the pattern of creation. We must learn to partner with creation, to truly live in the world and be with it, rather than destroying it. We learn to be caretakers and helpers in the world. We learn a path of service. Ultimately, witches are servants to the divine and to the community. They are healers, counselors, and mediators. They are religious leaders and guides. Because of this deep awareness of our connections, you cannot help but develop compassion for others, for it is compassion for yourself. You cannot help but to help others, because you are helping yourself and the greater world. When you heal yourself, you contribute to the overall healing of the world. When you help someone else heal, you are contributing to your own healing. Both processes must go hand in hand. Ultimately, through magic, we learn by our experience that we are not only all connected, but we are all one. One spirit with many different expressions, as nature is one. We are a part of nature. We are a part of the divine. Both are simultaneous and not exclusive. But without the experience, it is only philosophy. We do magic to know we are all one. This is the spiritual truth of magic. Chapter 3. The Ethical Witch. I am always staggered by the number of people who think witches can do anything they want. Those outside the craft really have no idea of the strong ethical philosophy that is involved in magic. And unfortunately, in some cases, many who are involved in the craft don't understand the ethical philosophy involved in the historic function of the witch as wise one. They perpetuate the anything goes, power-tripping stereotype. Wiccans and witches and pagans. The calling to be a witch has historically been one of the great responsibilities. Witches in the truest sense of the word are those who use their sacred knowledge and connection in service to others, the tribe, the world, and the highest good. That's no easy task. The craft starts as a personal exploration and calling. But even when you heal and help yourself to a better life through magic, you are helping contribute to the overall health and happiness of the entire world. If we are all connected, all our thoughts, feelings, and actions contribute to the overall world health. A witch has many definitions. A witch is a walker between worlds, serving to connect the spirit world and the material world, acting as a bridge, mystic, and visionary. The practice of witchcraft is one of the priestess and priest. Many people practice the heart of witchcraft without using the name Wiccan. Wicca with a capital W rather than the root word Wicca with a lowercase refers to the modern revival of the religion of witchcraft. Technically, it is a fairly new religion in its current form, but its practice stretches back through the ages. Some consider the word to apply only to those initiated in a formal tradition of Wicca, such as Gardnerian or Alexandrian Wicca. But many informal practitioners refer to themselves as Wiccans. Some prefer it because it is a less scary word than witch. Others opt for different words altogether, like mage, sorcerer, or seer, and avoid any W words. The word pagan, or technically neo-pagan, in the modern context, refers to those practicing a revival of the ancient earth-based religions, but do not necessarily identify with the word witch. Most who are involved in the revival of the ancient ways, particularly those traditions and myths of pre-Christian Europe, Egypt, and the Middle East, can be considered pagans. All witches and Wiccans are pagans, but not all pagans consider themselves witches or Wiccans. Many witches and Wiccans think of themselves as the ministers, the priests and priestesses of the overall pagan community, feeling they have more of a mystical inclination than others who follow each other's earth paths. But most pagans I know don't feel the same way about it. They see themselves as just as mystical. I've used all three words to describe myself in various times and situations. In the end, they are all names and labels, and you have to find the ones that serve you the best on this earth walk. Some words will help you with self-identity, while others don't. For me and many others, it was just important to confess to myself that yes, I am a witch. That's me. That's what I am about. It's a label, but it is much a part of my identity as male, gay, white, or musician. It is an integral part of me, and the admission of it in a less supportive society was life-changing. I am a witch. For some, witchcraft becomes a vocation of healing teaching and counseling others, even if only part-time. Witches on the spiritual path become role models whether they realize it or not. People first came to me to study witchcraft not because of any great interest in Wicca, but because I seemed to change my life for the better, and they wanted to know my secret. They wanted to know how to change and become happier, self-confident, and more fulfilled. Many expected quite literally a magic pill or potion, a quick fix. But a few realized it was a lifelong practice. A change of lifestyle and a change of how to be in the world. It takes a dedication and a discipline like any other path. And that is when I started sharing what simple knowledge I had gathered from my teachers, and, ever so informally, began teaching. Only 2 rules. Witchcraft, at its heart, is simple. Though there are complex philosophies, rituals, spells, and systems associated with it, they are all the trappings of the craft. The actual practice is infinitely simple to understand, but can be extremely hard to follow. We live in a society that regulates and regiments what we can do and can't do. It is defined by laws written into books, and we find freedom or prison in the exact way the language is written. Lawyers find loopholes to move around such laws, and technicalities give us exceptions to the law all the time. The universe has no exceptions. Universal law is not written in a book, to be erased and revoked at a later date. It is immutable, although its execution can appear mysterious. Just because someone wrote "what goes up must come down" to define gravity doesn't mean that gravity didn't exist before that was written. Spiritual, universal mechanics function the same way. The codes of witchcraft are not necessarily moral codes, but are common sense understanding of how to live in balance with the universe for the mutual health and benefit of everyone. The first law of witchcraft is the law of 3. Everything comes back to you threefold. Every thought, intention, emotion, and most particularly, every action returns to you stronger than when it first came from you. This is how spells work. You put out an intent full of energy, and it returns to you stronger, more manifested. It leaves you as an idea, and returns as a reality. I imagine the energy bouncing back from an imaginary wall at the end of the universe, recoiling stronger than when I threw it, gaining momentum to reach me. Well, this law works all the time, intentionally when doing magic and when doing anything. People think of it as the law of karma, but the concept of karma is a bit more complex than this, particularly when involved with the concepts of reincarnation. Think of the law of 3, sometimes called the law of return, as a principle in physics. It simply is. There is no moral standard to it, but it can feel that way. When we put out joy, we often receive joy back. When we put out pain, we often receive pain back. But the return time can be difficult under different circumstances. Many report it as instantaneous. Others wait quite a while, and even feel it catches up with us in future lifetimes. The second rule in witchcraft is not so universal in nature, but is really a suggestion as to how to deal with the universal rule. It's known among witches as the Wiccan reed, or simply the reed. A reed is a credo, or a suggestion, not an ironclad rule, but most witches realize sooner or later, through their own actions or from the world around them, why it is such a good idea to follow this reed. The Wiccan reed in its most basic form is "do what thou will and let it harm none." Another popular version is "and it harm none, do what ye will." Seems real easy, doesn't it? The execution can be more difficult than you think. Unlike moral codes such as the 10 Commandments, you have no real guide as to what is acceptable behavior and what isn't. Each situation, like each moment in time, is unique and individual. Each individual must weigh the actions and results. When you do no harm, that means to yourself too. Wicca is not the religion of self-sacrifice or martyrdom. You are free to live your life, but do not cause harm to others or yourself, because you will return that harm. Ultimately, the decision and responsibility lies with you. It always does. In even more regulated societies and traditions, but in witchcraft, the tradition always says, no, we can't decide for you. You must live your own life and live by the consequences of your actions. There is no perfect score. You live your life and learn from your mistakes, and realize that many of those mistakes are great teachers and blessings, even if they don't necessarily feel good at the time. They reveal us to ourselves so that we can grow and transform. So contrary to popular belief, witches do not do curses or cast evil hexes on unexpecting people. I'm sure some people do this with their knowledge, but they have a different definition of the word witch than most witches I know, and unfortunately they harm the reputation of us all. There are no true satanic witches. The devil as the prince of evil is a Christian concept and plays no part in witchcraft. Neither do satanic spells, black masses, or ritual sacrifice. Witches involved in these titles or practices are not witches in the same sense of the word. Some are educated and openly state that they are different from the neo-pagan movement, following their own path, while others are simply confused and mix elements of Wicca with Hollywood horror movie stereotypes. Just as there are those who call themselves Christians who do not love others as their neighbors, who harm, aim, and kill, there are those who use the word witch, but do not live up to the true spirit of the tradition as wise one, healer, and visionary. They do not live by the Wiccan rede any more than the supposed Christians live by the Christian rules. Love your neighbor as yourself, and do unto others as you would have done unto you. In essence, they are not so different than witchcraft. The highest aspect of the rede deals with not only our will, desire, needs, and wants, but also our higher will. Often the word will is capitalized in the various forms of the rede to denote true magic, and life is about emerging your personal will and need with the higher need. When you have these two forces aligned, all your magical working will take a quantum leap forward. Each act of magic is an opportunity to practice this merger one spell at a time. When you really merge the two on deeper and deeper levels in all parts of your life, you are walking the spirit road of the witch. Below is the extended version of the simple rede. This is but one version of many possibilities passed along by witches. The extended Wiccan rede. Bide the Wiccan law we must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Live and let live, fairly take and fairly give. Cast the circle thrice about, to keep all evil spirits out. To bind the spell every time, let the spell be spake in rhyme. Soft of eye and light of touch, speak little, listen much. Days will go by the waxing moon, singing out the witch's tune. Widdershins go by the waning moon, chanting out the baneful rune. When the lady's moon is new, kiss thy hand to her times two. When the moon rides at her peak, then your heart's desire seek. Heed the north wind's might gale, lock the door and trim the sail. When the wind comes from the south, love will kiss thee on the mouth. When the wind blows from the east, expect the new and set the feast. When the wind bows from the west, departed souls will have no rest. When the west wind blows o'er there, departed spirits restless be. 9 woods into the cauldron go, burn them fast and burn them slow. Elder be your lady's tree, burn it not, or cursed ye be. When the wheel begins to turn, let the Beltane fires burn. When the wheel has turned to Yule, light the log, the horned one rules. Heed ye flower, bush and tree, by the lady blessed be. Where the rippling waters flow, cast a stone, in truth you'll know. When ye have and hold a need, hearken no to others' greed. With a fool no season spend, nor be counted as his friend. Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. Mind the threefold law you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. When a misfortune is enow, wear the blue star on the brow. True in love ever be, unless they lovers false to thee. 8 words to the Wiccan read fulfill, and harm none, do what ye will. And there we are, everybody. That was the beginning of chapter 3 in our book, The Outer Temple of Witchcraft, Circle Spells and Rituals by author Christopher Penczak. Hope you all enjoyed that section, and definitely ready to continue with you guys all tomorrow night. I hope you guys enjoyed our reading this evening, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful night. Goddess bless, blessed be, and I will see you all tomorrow.